Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Warehouse. I'm your host, Josh Johnson, and today, like always, we are joined with a very special guest, somebody that I have known for some years, somebody that has been incredible for this community in the vein of art, local artist, Gloria Nicholson. Thank you for joining us so much, Miss Gloria.
Thank you, Josh.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you heard in my introduction, I had to put a Miss in front of that Gloria because I have always known you as Miss Gloria. You are somebody that not only commands respect, but somebody who has just earned it. And the way that you have earned it most notably in this community is just by putting out some of the most beautiful ceramic art we have ever seen.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so before we go into the art, I want to ask you about something that has always intrigued me about you. You've accumulated a lot of success locally. You've shown a lot of places. But one of the things that is so cool to me is that as you tell it, you started art very late in life. And so before we get into the art, let's talk about how you started later, as you say.
Okay, what happened to me since I've been in Tallahassee was I had an accident. Mm. What happened is I fell and I fractured my pelvis. And being that I'm a person that likes to keep busy, I was getting on everybody's nerves. And I had a friend that worked at Lemoyne, Nancy Jefferson. Sure. And she told my husband, she said, well, why don't you bring her over here and we'll see if she wants to play. And that's what happened.
And what did they mean by play?
Well, to play is what happened is I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. And Nancy, I had met Nancy when I was having a venue down at the park, down on Park Avenue. Mm-hmm. You know, I used to have a restaurant here. Sure. So that's basically where I met Nancy. And Nancy said, just bring her over in the wheelchair, because I was in a wheelchair, and let her come over here and see if she wants to play with clay. And that was it. You know, I came over there and started at Lemoyne, and I just found I just like to play with it.
You know,
it was just, go ahead.
All research says, or most research says, that if you're going to do something, it's always best to start early because you accumulate the skill. And that sometimes starting later in life can handicap some of your proficiency. But I think art's a little bit differently.
I think art is different.
Because you bring your own experiences with it, right?
Because also, I mean, you do art in different ways. Mm-hmm. Okay, before this, my art was cooking. Yeah. Okay, and I had a funny way of saying food has to look right. Okay? You just can't cook food. You got to, it has to look right. Mm-hmm. So I got a chance to play with food here when I had the restaurant.
So you had the Dewdrop Inn, right?
I had the Dewdrop Inn
right off of Park
here.
Avenue. Excuse me, off of Appalachia Parkway.
Appalachia Parkway, and then I did the park. Yeah. I was down at the park on Park Avenue for quite a few seasons there, and all of this helped me a little bit, and being that it kept me busy, I was in a good mood because I was busy.
I guess you're going to keep me from getting to the art. I got another question before we get into your art.
Okay, get to the art, yeah.
No. You're keeping me from it because I'm interested. Are there similarities between cooking and the technique or the process of the art that you deal in now?
It is.
What are some of them?
I mean, I always like, some people don't like to touch food, okay? I have quite a few people I know, they don't like to mix and stuff like that. I've always been like that. I always, before Dewdrop Inn, what happened is my dad called my house Dewdrop Inn because we lived in New York near Kennedy Airport. And my kids and family and stuff, if they flew in to Kennedy Airport, they ended up at Gloria's house.
So when would you say you started
cooking?
Practicing art?
Practicing art, maybe about 7 years ago, 6 or 7, that's it.
Really?
And like I said, the first start was Nancy. And basically I went into the studio with Nancy just to take a class, and it was hand building and also the wheel. The wheel was not good for me.
We're talking ceramics now.
Ceramics, yeah.
Throwing clay.
Throwing clay. I'm mostly a hand builder because I like mixing it. I said you can mix food, you can bake cakes, you can do all those things. So it would always keep me interested.
So,
And go ahead.
so now let's talk about your process and your technique. As
Oh,
you're learning, as they invite you over and you're starting to play and it's starting to become something that you like.
well, what it was is I liked it, but, certain things I wasn't interested in. Like I said, I was not interested in the wheel. Um, I really wanted to make masks. And for some reason, just playing with the clay was something I wanted to learn, and learn the hand building and the techniques. But I always found that I went back to making masks.
So let's jump to something really quick. You have become locally famous for these masks. I don't even, I guess they're masks, but to me, you know what they look like? They look like portraits. They look like portraits of people that you've conjured up in your mind
They're
and have splattered them on these ornate backgrounds in the form of this glazed clay. Let's talk about the mask or the people or the spirits, as I call them, because
Well,
that's what
it
they
is the
feel like.
spirits. I call most of the series, even though I'm making some masks just for fun, there's always one that's called the ancestors. And as you see, I never know. I always say that the clay tells me what it wants to be. Okay, the clay tells me what it wants to be. I cannot start something and say, this is what I'm going to make, because it never turns out that way.
And so the faces and all of that come to you as you're making
As
it.
I'm making it, or looking at it, or coming and taking it out of the kiln and after the glaze to see what I could do with it when I take it home. Because I also like to embellish it with jewelry or rocks or shells or anything that's coming in. And that clay and that face tells me what it wants to
Do
be.
you ever work with found materials too? Just stuff that you find that you think that you can
Lots
incorporate?
of it is fine because basically I started out really making them and just hanging them on the wall as they were and formed. And then I like putting them on wood, or I put them on old fabrics, or I put them on anything that I can find that is going to, take it to the next step for me.
So, two questions. The first one is what that interests me. What is the next step? I hear a lot of artists say, I never know when it's finished. I never know what perfect is. How do you know when you're finished with
Okay,
a
first of
piece?
all, I don't believe there's any perfect. Okay, and that's what I learned. Basically, is that if you're looking for perfection when you're making something, it's not going to come out right. Actually, the feel, like I said, the feel of the clay, I've learned basically by moving the clay around and putting them together. Okay, I did one thing years ago. I had a favorite African bag that I had bought, and I decided I was going to turn it into a not to a mask, but into a vase. It was a leather bag. And learning, actually, because I never had any lessons beside Nancy and Sue, that's who's with, I work at her studio now. I've never had any lessons from anybody else. So basically, it's taking what they taught me and putting it into my own interpretation of what it's going to be.
So, my next question of that two-part question is you name them. I've
do.
noticed that. Most
Okay.
of them or all of them are named.
Okay,
Where do the names come from?
In my mind. And what it is, like I say, I take it home, and if I have done that mask for that, it takes almost, basically, you say, to make it, it's maybe a month between the making, the bisque fire, and then if you're going to put it into the glaze fire, and then it goes home.
And so, for people that don't know, what does this process look like? What are you doing?
Okay, what I'm doing is I'm molding the clay. I'm molding the clay. Then the clay is dried until it gets leather hard. And then it's put into a fire that's called a bisque fire in a kiln. Okay, when it comes out of that kiln, It's already hard, and what you're going to do then is glaze it. Okay, and basically that's another process because you're actually deciding, what kind of glaze you're going to put on it. Okay, there are a lot of different glazes that you can use, different colors and stuff. And after that, you put on that glaze and you put it back into another fire, and it actually melts the glaze and gives you the shininess or whatever you want on the mask. Then I take it home. And then it sits on a little table for about 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, sometimes a month. And then I look at it and say, well, let me see what I'm going to mount it on. Then let me see what I'm going to add to it as an accessory. So it's a whole big process of trying to get it to make it one face.
Absolutely.
And then after that, you got to look at it and see what its name should be. So, it's a mental process, but it's good.
I don't know how rare it is. I'm going to keep saying that it's rare because I want to feel special. But I have had the rare privilege of being to your home studio.
Yeah.
And when you walk in down there, like I said earlier, they all are just sitting around like old family or new friends.
They are.
And so that leads me to my next question. How hard, because some of them look so realistic and some of them look abstract, but no matter how they look, they all definitely have personality.
Oh, yeah.
Is it hard to give them away or to sell them?
Yeah.
Yes. Talk to me about that. Is it like divorcing yourself from children?
It is.
Yeah.
My kids come and every once in a while, what I like to do when I go to my children's house is I see my progress. Because, your kids and your family will take anything you give them. Whether they want it or not, they'll take it for a while. But you get to look at how you've grown as you actually keep making new things. And I have a hard time getting rid of stuff. If it's what I say, if it's the first Ancestor series, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at it. Or I have a special one that's one of my great-grands, and I call it Ezra. I don't think Ezra will ever go anyplace because that's who it's for. I have made things for other people that I've given away to them, and those were all special, but I'm kind of funny about that. I had a friend of mine that I told her it could not go in her office. It had to go in her house because she loves to decorate her office with her things. But I said, no, this one has to go in your house.
Why?
Because it's special.
And so it's for home.
It's for home. It's for special for home,
That gives me a perfect segue. While you have been in other places for the last few years or for the last several years, Tallahassee has become home.
Yes.
And in that facet, you have enjoyed a level of success that not many local artists reach. You have shown in so many places like Lemoyne or Bearfly or 621 or Jefferson Arts. I'm sure the list goes on and on. Tell me how that feels to not only enjoy what you do, but to be appreciated and adored for what you do.
At this age, it feels very good. And I think what it is moving here. When I moved here, I didn't know anybody. My daughter. The reason I came is because she took my granddaughter, and they came here.
Where from and how long ago?
Okay, in New York. Okay, I lived, as I said before, by Kennedy Airport. But my daughter and her husband moved here because he was teaching at FAMU, and my daughter was getting her doctorate. And they took my granddaughter. So that's 21 years ago. 21 years ago. And then I just had a way of saying, my daughter even making me go out and start Dewdrop Inn was the fact that I believe when you move a new place and you don't have children, little children, you're not putting them in school, nobody's going to invite you out to play. You got to go play. You got to invite yourself.
Sure.
So I just invited myself. and my husband too. I mean, really getting to try to know the community and like it. I had to find people like me, and I found the artist community really welcomes you. Whatever you try to do, you're going to find somebody if you really do
I'm so
want to do
glad you
something.
said that. One of the flags that I've put on my back over the years
Mm-hmm.
is that Tallahassee, for whatever it is or for whatever it isn't, it's my favorite place. And on top of that, we really not only have a receptive art community, but a robust art
Oh,
community.
very much so.
And so I think a lot of people lean on the excuse that we don't have much in order to quell some anxiety that they have. But if you get over that anxiety and get out in the community, we have a lot.
Well, the thing too is when I worked at the market, that's where I met most of the artists that I know now. Okay. The market at that time was a very, very friendly environment, and artists were there. And I liked doing art if I never did it for myself until I got older. But I mean, even as a child, I was always doing something.
So this isn't really technically something that you started late in life. It's a return home in some ways.
Yeah, I think what it is that it's always been in me. You know, I mean, I did stage design when I was in high school. You know, crazy little things that we would do. Um, and I think that's what it really was. I've always brought art into my house, okay? And because I've always liked different things, art, music, and stuff like that, it's always been there. So I grew up with that. My dad liked it. So it's always been something that's here. I just never knew what I could produce on my own.
You know, we've brought up Lemoyne a couple of times throughout this conversation, and I want to return there because a few years ago you were part of what I think was an incredible exhibition
Yes.
that was entitled 17 Remarkable Women. Talk to us about that experience.
Okay, that's another funny thing that came into my life because I don't even know who recommended me to go for an interview. And it was the Women Among Us. And
Yes, Women Among Us. I'm
the
sorry.
Women Among Us.
Yes.
And the difference is I really didn't understand it. I mean, I had at that time, I was involved with 621. I
Sure.
did one exhibit there with Tallahassee Clay Arts and Sue. Basically, I don't know where it came up that I should come and be there. And also to bring part of my art to represent me. And Lemoyne was a good part for that. I mean, they really sponsored us and gave us the opportunity to be seen. And it was mostly women under 60, over 60. It would be nice to say I'd been under 60 at that time, but over 60, who, in my ideas, you really don't get a recommendation or someone to go ahead and sponsor you for something to be seen like that. That was a very wonderful thing for me.
Well, in some ways, I think you're being quite humble about that answer because maybe you don't know the genesis of how you got in there, but I hope that you know that your work speaks for itself and so that
Thank
it was
you.
evident that you deserve to be in there just as much as anybody else. A question that I ask on this program often, and I love it so much because it's a simple little question, but sometimes it takes us in really cool directions. I'm always talking to artists and artisan and art-minded people, and so I would always like to know, what does art mean to you? What is art to you?
Okay, that is a difficult question to put into words. Okay. Um,
We can edit, so you take your time.
Art is actually, I think all people are born with a sense of art. We just don't realize it. If you don't realize it, you're not given the opportunity to see it the way you want to portray it. Okay, that's what
Absolutely.
I basically. I think the other thing that happens with art is people don't really realize that, and I realize it when somebody's looking at something I've made.
Oh, what does that mean? That sounds
What it
interesting.
means is that you have to you have to see something in there that you need or you want. And when I name some of my figures, it's because people have come by when been at pottery shows, and they'll come by about 2 or 3 times, and they'll look at something or they'll look at the face. And if it wants to go home with you, it will say, I'm going home with you. Okay? Because you have to come by. It's personal.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really buy art any longer. Art now is out of the pocket for some people where they really can't afford it. But if in your life it's been there all the time, whether it's the love of art, painting, or music, or anything, dancing, it's always been there, and it's up to you to kind of bring it out of yourself.
I'm going to butcher this quote, but I read somewhere once upon a time, somebody was asked, what is the definition of love? And I think the quote is recognizing a counterpoint of yourself in another person. And the way that you just said that, almost, that was so beautiful that when art speaks to you, you'll know it
You know
because it's on a different frequency. It may not be saying it in language. It may not even be saying it in the way it looks, but it will touch you in a place where you will recognize it, and it will demand to either come home with you or to be felt in that moment,
And to
even
be
if
felt.
it doesn't.
And some people walk by and they just want to, because I like texture in anything that I'm making, they just want to come by and touch it.
Yeah.
You know, because I like everything. I like natural things. I like texture. I love raku, doing raku or anything of that type. The burnings when you do the clay work. But also the fact that most of that feeling comes, I think, too, when you name something. Because then somebody looks at it and you can tell them that's the name. And they can look either, most of the people that have bought them, you know it. And I'm so happy to see somebody take something and look at it and say, that's something I need because it's speaking to me.
Absolutely.
You know, it's speaking. I can never do something twice. So I hope nobody ever asks me.
To replicate something.
No, I don't. I can't do it. The nose might be different, something. I can't really do it. But I do get, it's a good feeling. And I hope, anybody who buys it and brings it home just loves it.
In your last answer, you mentioned two words that make me think of another answer. You said something about speaking to, and the next word that you said was feeling. Oftentimes, that kind of conjures therapy, the ability to be able to talk to somebody about what you're feeling. From research that I did on you, I came across a cool little tidbit about the ladies of the round table, I think. And one of the cool things that you said about them was the reason that we would meet this group of girlfriends, part and parcel, was so that we didn't need therapy, or we were each other's therapy.
We were each other's therapy.
I want to hear about them. And I also want to know, has art in some way filled that space for you? Is art a therapy for you or therapeutic for you?
Okay. Yes. Okay. The ladies of the round table were 13 women. Okay. And the funny thing, we called us the lady of the round tables because we met at each other's houses. It was either the kitchen table, the dining room table. And if you got us all together, we were all different. We were all different beings. You would never understand when you saw this group that we were actually friends. And it was therapy because we always had an empty chair. The empty chair was the person you didn't like that day. Whether it was your husband, your job, your wife, your children, anybody that was in that circle, that's who you could direct everything through. And that empty chair could be anybody that day. Okay? So, we really had a history. But also, I think, everyone even needs something that's yours. Okay? And art is personal. So it is yours.
Absolutely.
So what you're doing with yourself at that time is You take that time, you're not thinking about anything else but trying to create something. And you're not creating it for anybody else but you. You know, and I think that's the beauty of it, is actually just to see something that's been in your head and you think it's coming out right and it's not, and then you turn it into something else. You
Absolutely.
know, and it's personal.
You brought up something earlier, this series that you have with your mask that's entitled The Ancestors. I may be reading too far into it, but it's always something that interests me as a black man. When I hear words like ancestors or ancestry or posterity or legacy, obvious things come to mind. When you said that you titled that series, or titled that series because it's ongoing, The Ancestors, the question that I thought about in that moment was, do you feel the weight or the presence of your cultural identity when you're making art, or in
Yeah.
that space, are you not black? Are you not woman? Are you just something creating? Or do those things inform the way that you make art?
I think they inform the way I make art
Sure.
because it's me.
It's you.
And the ancestors is, I've always had a connection with what I call the ancestors. Okay. And in that way of actually being able to get a it's not really virtual. What is it? It's actually seeing the mask. I'm putting a face on it. None of them have my ancestors' names, so that's not it. It's deeper. It's deeper than that. I think it's a consciousness of where we're from, where we've come from. You know what the feeling was at that time,
And where we're going.
and
Where we're going.
where we're going. You know, and I think it's a way of just expressing the need that we have for all of these things to be recognized and all these feelings.
Is there a piece that you have to make that you haven't made yet? Is there some itch that you know there's something in there that needs to come out that you haven't made yet? Or does every time you make something, you're so satisfied, you're just waiting for the next idea?
No, I'm never satisfied because then I wouldn't have kept them all in some of the things in my house or pick up some of the stuff. But I've always been interested in that. I I just did 100 years of photographs
What does
from
that
my
mean?
family. My family, my husband's family, our families together. And as you age, you know that you've got a whole bunch of things you don't need to have in your house. And I had boxes of pictures. My dad, took pictures. And I said, if I put them in albums, my kids are going to have to look at them before they throw them away. Okay? It's not going to be that mess of just picking up that box and throwing it away. And I think you know, that's the way I don't think that I am a very religious, I'm a spiritual person. So all those little things and the faces and the ancestors are really part of who I am.
Nobody's here to stay. One
No.
day there will
Yes.
be no Gloria
Yes.
Nicholson. There'll be no
Yes.
Josh Johnson. Is your art in some way a way to stay alive, a bit of legacy or posterity, knowing that you've left something in the world that will outlive you 100 times over? Or is it not that deep and you appreciate them while you yet live?
No, I appreciate them while I'm here. I think, aging also, all you want is your memories. And that's the only thing you have to pass on. So if some of my art is somebody's memory, it'll be here.
And that's a blessing in
It's
itself.
a blessing in itself.
In
Yeah.
closing, I always have a different question in closing. I try
Okay.
to, anyways. And my closing for you is at this stage in your life, some people might say the winter or the fourth quarter. You're still young and you'll be here for many years, but you do have more behind you than you have
Yes,
in
and you
front
have
of
in
you.
front.
Do you still have ambitions? Is there something that you would like to do with your art? Publish a book of it, or showing some certain place?
And I still think I got a book to write
I hear
because I
you.
enjoy that too.
Sure.
But I think I I think that as you age, I don't say getting old, it's getting older
Hmm.
because I've always thought of the years I could put my age backwards. Okay, like right now, I'm supposed to be celebrating my 8th birthday, not my 80th this year. Okay, and then the years that you can't put them back are just terrible because it makes you older. But I think you just need to appreciate everything you have and take the blessing in the morning, and you need to create with that. I don't think that people need to actually sit and do nothing because your mind is still growing. And anything you're bringing into yourself makes you a better person.
You said I wasn't expecting you to. I'm always so relieved when a person says their age,
Oh,
especially
sure.
with pride. And I was thinking, I said she makes ceramics, and ceramics make crack, but black don't crack.
No. I
That is
think that, like I
incredible.
said, I think there's creativity in
I would
everybody.
have never guessed 80, but that is incredible. So
Yeah.
much life accrued.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think it's a milestone. It's one of the milestones, but you just have to keep your mind going, keep it busy, let it grow, jump into something else. And that's what you age when you don't.
Well, in closing, I'll say earlier you brought up the word memories when I asked you about posterity. And there's one thing for certain. While you're here, and even when not, you have decorated this city with some of its most amazing memories through your art. And I appreciate you being here. And I appreciate you all for being here again for another episode of The Warehouse. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.